Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the Blood Bowl for tonight's contest. You join a capacity crowd packed with members of every race from across the known world, all howling like banshees in anticipation of tonight's game. Oh, and yes, there are some actual banshees. Well, kickoff is in about 20 minutes' time, so we've just got time to recap the rules of the game before the battle starts. Your match commentators for tonight are Jim and myself, Bob Bifford. Evening, Jim.
Thank you, Bob. Well, good evening, and boy, are you folks in for a great night of top-class sporting entertainment. But first of all, for those at home who are unfamiliar with the rules, here's how the game is transmitted to the folks at home and, of course, played.
Let me explain that, Jim. As any Blood Bowl fan knows, each Blood Bowl match is transmitted out to thousands of Blood Bowl fans with the device Campaign for Real Arcanery, the camera that was developed by the Guilds of Magic. A bound spirit in a box is allowed to look out in one direction only at the Blood Bowl field, and his mental image is then transmitted by teams of magicians using the spell Cablevision.
And nowadays, we've got a lot of cameras, Bob. Since transmitting Blood Bowl matches became a huge success, a lot more broadcasting guilds emerged on the market, such as NBC, to name a few. But since ABC...
Association of Broadcasting Conjurers.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Since the ABC won the franchise in 2486, when it was renewed for the 30th time, they have exclusive broadcasting rights nowadays.
That's too true, Jim. But let's explain for the folks at home what Blood Bowl, the game, really is. Blood Bowl is an epic conflict between two teams of heavily armored and quite insane warriors. Players pass, throw, or run with the ball, attempting to get it to the other end of the pitch, the end zone. Of course, the other team must try to stop them and recover the ball for their side. If a team gets the ball over the line into the opponent's end zone, it's called a touchdown. The team that scores the most touchdowns by the end of the match wins the game and are declared Blood Bowl champions. How do they do it?
It's like this, Bob. Two teams set up 11 players on the pitch. 11 is the sacred number of Nuffle, as any hardcore Blood Bowl fan would know. Today we're going to watch the Gouged Eye against the Reichland Reavers. This is yet another grudge match between the two teams.
And it seems the teams are entering the pitch now. Shall we get started, Jim? The coin is flipped high in the air, and the brave goblin referee announced that the Reichland Reavers will be receiving this half.
Right, let's get started. As any coach will tell you, Bob, a team's starting formation is vitally important. Here we can see an example of the Gouged Eye famous 5-4-2 or deep defense formation. This formation is used by the Eye against fast-moving or agile teams like Skaven or Elves, some would argue with limited success.
You said it, Jim. Notice how the Gouged Eye has made sure that there are no gaps in their line for opposing players to run through. Every square is covered by an orc player or one of his tackle zones.
That's absolutely right, Bob. Each square around a player is a tackle zone. And it looks like, as an added insurance, the orcs have kept two players back deep, close to their own end zone, so they can catch any enemy players lucky enough to dodge their way through the orc front line.
Jim, let's not forget that a team can only field 2 players in each wide zone, and they always have to field a minimum of 3 players on the halfway line, which coach...
Okay, Bob, it seems like Reichland Reavers have set up their offensive lineup and that the Gouged Eye are ready to kick the ball.
It sure does, Jim. When both teams have finished their setup, the coach of the kicking team places the ball in any square in the opponent's half of the pitch. Those kicks are sure inaccurate, Jim. That's why coaches sometimes prefer to field a player with the kick skill, since it will cut the number of possible squares the ball will scatter by half. But more on those skills later.
That's right, Bob. The kick skill sure is useful, because if the ball bounces off the pitch or into the kicking team's half, the receiving team is awarded a touchback and can give the ball to any player in their team. There goes the little referee with his bone whistle. It's time to rumble!
And look at that kick, Jim. What a perfect kick by Truck Elf Splitter. But what's up with the fans, Jim?
As you know, Bob, all kinds of things can happen during a Blood Bowl match. A team may make an inspired play, or raucous fans might throw a rock at one of the opposing team's players, or even invade the pitch. Coaches refer to them as kick-off events. There are lots of different outcomes. In this case, the cheering fans seem to have gone wild with anticipation.
Right, Jim. Keep an eye on those fans. It seems Reichland Reavers got inspired by their fans cheering and got an extra reroll in this half.
And that extra team reroll sure is handy for the Reavers, Bob. It allows them to reroll one dice roll per turn during a half. Rerolls are very important in Blood Bowl, as coaches quickly discover.
It sure is useful, Jim. So let's continue with the match, shall we? It seems like the Reichland Reavers thrower, Fat Midbrot, is getting ready to pick up the ball, and the ball is just within his reach since he got movement allowance 6.
Oh, take a look at that, Bob. He almost failed to pick up the ball. Luckily enough for the Reavers, Fat Midbrot has the sure hand skill, which allowed him to re-roll the pickup roll, and he made it on the second attempt.
True, Jim. Sure hands does come in handy at times. Maybe we should mention that the agility table is used for more than just pickups, Jim. It is also used to work out the success or failure of a number of different actions in Blood Bowl, including dodging, picking up the ball, and throwing or catching the ball, to name but a few. Each action has its own set of modifiers, too, depending on how difficult the action is. It's these modifiers to the dice roll that affect whether or not the action is a success.
That's right, Bob. This all might sound complicated, but it's really easy to understand it all after a few games. For those that wish to broaden their wisdom about Blood Bowl, I recommend taking a look at the official Blood Bowl rulebook.
You said it, Jim. But look at that. He's not done. He's about to throw a short pass to Griff Oberwald.
That's a risky play so early in the turn, Bob. Usually, coaches try to perform the easier actions first during their turn, because if anyone fails an action, it's the end of their turn. In this case, it's fairly safe, since Fat Midbrot also has the pass skill, which allows him to re-roll a failed result.
Still a risky play, Jim, since the thrower has agility of 3, which means that he must roll a 4 or more to be on target. No modifiers apply to the D6 roll because he is not in any tackle zones, and the modifier for short pass is +0.
And he rolls a 4 and makes it. And Griff Oberwald reaches for the ball and rolls a 2. He catches the ball. What an amazing play so early in the game, Bob. For those that wish to view the agility table for passing the ball and catching the ball, we refer yet again to the Blood Bowl rulebook.
Sure is amazing, Jim. Regarding actions, such as passing, handoffs, and blitz moves, these actions can only be performed by one player per turn. However, it can be any player that attempts these actions. So don't worry about the names of the player positions. They just help illustrate that blitzers are just better at blitzing, throwers are just better at passing the ball, and catchers are just better at catching the ball. Now back to the action on the pitch. They better stay clear of that big guy, Bob. He has a strength value of 5, and in this case, he is blocking the Black Orc, Rip Sorpain, who only has a strength of 4. Since the Ogre has more strength than his opponent, it means he can roll 2 block dice and choose which one to use.
For you folks at home, you can check the player's strengths roll table for further information concerning what effects a player's strength have when blocking.
And look at that, Jim. He rolls defender down, and the defender stumbles. He uses the defender down result to push Rip Sorepain back a square and knock him flat on his back in the mud. And whenever a player hits the ground, you make an armor roll to see if his armor protects him from injury.
Lucky for that Black Orc, he's got some heavy armor on him, Bob. Oh, wait! It looks like Zug managed to break the Black Orc's armor and has caused a knockout result on the injury roll. That's because Zug has the extremely powerful Mighty Blow skill, which adds +1 to your armor roll. The Reavers fans go wild! After all, it's called Blood Bowl!
And brutality on the pitch? We like that, Jim. Seems like the Reavers smashed up an opening, too. Look at Jean-Paul Musen. The Reavers catcher is running right through their defense. I smell a touchdown soon, Jim.
Not so fast, Bob. He still needs to make a dodge roll to bypass the Gouged Eye's solid defense.
That's right, Jim. And while he squeezes through the defense, he rolls a 3 and successfully dodges through, since he needs to roll a 3 or more. With an agility value of 3, he requires a roll of 4 or more to be successful. But since Jean-Paul Musen dodges through a square that has no tackle zones, he receives a +1 bonus dodge modifier when attempting the dodge roll. Remember, it's always the square that you are dodging to that determines the modifiers. That's some nice dodging, Jim.
Too right, but look, it looks like Griff Oberwald will dodge through and make a go for it to hand off the ball to Jean-Paul Musen. And just like every action in Blood Bowl, a go for it can be treacherous, Bob.
That's all true, Jim. While all players can go for it 2 additional squares of movement, they need to roll a d6 to see if they can make it. On a 1, they will fall flat on the ground in the square where they failed, and therefore must make an armor roll, and it will cause a team turnover.
Some high-quality play there, Bob. Griff Oberwald dodges through and goes for it to the catcher, and Jean-Paul Musen successfully catches the handoff. Now, a handoff is always considered as an accurate pass, so the receiving player simply needs to pass an agility roll. Our catcher, with an agility of 3, therefore catches the ball on a roll of 3 or more.
That's all nice, Jim, but I want to see more action on the pitch. And here we go. It looks like the human blitzer, Matthias Meyer, is getting ready to blitz that orc, while Griff Oberwald is assisting him.
That's right, Bob. Once per turn, a player on the moving team is allowed to make a special blitz move. A blitz allows the player to move and make a block. The block may be made at any point during the move, but costs 1 square of movement for the player to make.
That's one tough blitzer, Jim. Since Griff Oberwald assisted him, he had +1 strength, giving him a strength value of 4. So he gets to roll 2 block dice and choose the result.
Indeed, Bob. The player may carry on moving after the effects of the block have been worked out, if he has any squares of movement left. It seems like he is moving up next to the catcher to protect him.
But look, Jim, what is Peter Von Gullet trying to do? It looks like he'll fall over and cause a turnover. Normally, a turn only ends when all the players in the team have performed an action. However, certain events cause the turn to end before all the players have taken an action.
Turnover! Not even the team reroll helped them there, Bob. This doesn't look good for the Reavers, since Jean-Paul Moussin is wide open for a blitz. The Orcs don't waste any time, and there goes Krug Painspear, the gouged eye star, Orc blitzer. He just blitzed up the pitch, and now he's going to throw a block at Jean-Paul Moussin, the Reavers catcher. Krug Painspear got a strength of 3 compared to Jean-Paul's 2, which means Krug Painspear can roll 2 block dice and choose which one he will use.
Did you see that, Jim? Since Krug Painspear has the tackle skill, Jean-Paul Moussin is knocked down with a defender stumbles, even though he has the dodge skill, which would normally allow him to regard that as a simple pushback. What a blitz! That looks like a spleen gone awry. Brutal and bloody just the way we like it. And the gouged eye fans go wild. It looks like the Reavers will have to use their apothecary to stitch up that wound. And there they come, running onto the pitch, carrying out the lifeless body.
That's assuming the apothecary can mend him, Bob. The apothecary allows a reroll of any injury, and you could choose the new result. Bob, I'm not so sure about that. He might be a good thrower when it comes to throwing it downfield, but it looks like Cannonball Benny is about to attempt a risky pass to Varag Gaulchua, and Griff Oberwald is in a great position to make an interception attempt. Can't he see him?
That's right, Jim. The crowd holds its breath as Griff leaps to intercept the pass. He needs an agility roll of 3 or more. However, a player making an interception attempt suffers a -2 modifier, which means that Griff will need a score of 5 or 6 to catch the ball. The dice is rolled and comes up with a 6. Griff catches the ball. It's an interception! And just listen to those Reavers fans, Jim. They're going wild! That's a turnover for the gouged eye.
And there goes Griff Oberwald, sprinting down the field to score Reichland Reavers' first touchdown. And listen to those fans, Bob, howling like banshees and rabid wolves.
What a touchdown, Jim! Did you see that? Amazing! But the game is far from over. This is just warming up. 6 turns remain of the first half, and then we got a full second half with 8 more turns before this game is over.
Oh, boy, Bob, this'll be interesting. May Nuffle always bless his dice. Welcome, one and all, for what promises to be a regular Blood Bowl bruiser. So, lock up the wife and kids, take a six-pack out of the fridge, and settle down into your favorite chair for some feisty entertainment.
A true sport for true men. When a guy goes down in Blood Bowl, you don't expect him to be getting back up. The ball's in play. It's a catch! Now this player just needs to survive! Boom! In the face! And then followed by a clean uppercut. Well done!
As soon as he throws his first punch,
We know the opponent will be out for lunch. Every now and again, Blood Bowl throws up a real mixed bag of the team.
like the motley horde, is made up of a bunch of misfits.
Yeah, can't be easy to coach those cast-offs every day of the week. Ouch! Oh, he's knocked him senseless.
You're assuming, then, that he had something between his ears to begin with.
I've heard of teams that have simply disappeared after being abandoned by their supporters.
Let's say that some teams who haven't won a match for several years have been tied up by their fans and thrown into rubbish containers.
It's the only way to end a downward spiral.
That right hook was worthy of a black orc.
You're telling me it'll take a while to get over it.
He sent him down for a chat with the Astro Granite. What finesse, what style, what perfection.
What a hammer blow! Boom! That player goes directly to the dugout.
Well, at least it's not the morgue. Did you know most teams are jealous of the undead teams?
Why is that, Jim?
Apparently, Tom Landry, in a rare interview, stated it is because their players don't stop playing when they die.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
This player has opened the slapping box and gives rather generously.
You have to be counted to 10 to be officially knocked out.
In his case, I think they could count to 5,000, and it wouldn't change a thing.
It will be just a small step for the players, but a giant leap for the team.
Did you know that champions of Death Mummies are rediscovered Blood Bowl players?
Yes, of course, Jim. Everyone knows they're 8,000 years old.
I guess that makes it old news, Bob.
That's not funny, Jim. Seriously, you need some new material.
Good recovery. An inch-perfect pass.
Not often you see that. You think he'll be able to get up after that blow, Jim?
Oh, yes. He's not the sort to stay down. Down and eat the dust. It's good for you.
Oh, no, just look at that.
You'd think that was the first time he tried to pick up a ball.
Ain't that the truth?
He's got a hand to the ball.
Yeah, now he's looking around for support. Too fast to tackle.
This player knows how to dodge and give free lessons.
That's the sort of technical error that can cost you the game.
Who would you say is the most famous halfling team out there, Bob?
Who can dispute the Greenfield Grasshuggers' mark on Blood Bowl, Jim?
Ah, yes, Bob, but they don't exactly win their games.
No, Jim, they don't. But when they finally gave up against the Asgard Ravens after the 734th corpse was carried from the pitch, new legislation limiting teams to only 16 players was rushed through the very next week.
True, true. They made an impact on the pitch and an impact on the rules that day.
Incoming!
Well, it is a violent sport.
over already.
It can't be.
Yep, they're heading back to the changing rooms.
Well, see you in a few minutes, boys.
The second half will soon be underway.
Well, no doubt too soon for some of the badly injured players.
Oh, they'll be off the pitch quick enough.
Popcorn? Check. Pies? Check. Cake? Check. Looks like the halfling players are getting ready for some serious action, Jim.
Sure does, Bob.
Their pre-match warm-up sure is different from most teams.
Three, two, one.
Bust up!
The player has got the ball, and now he's the main target.
He slipped him the ball.
Package has been delivered.
But it is yet to be shipped to the final recipient. It seems this player does all the talking with the fists.
And they clearly know how to get heard. That player's gonna add a new star to his collection.
That's why they're always on the front page of Spike magazine.
Look! They walk. They make noises. They score touchdowns.
Yes, Bob. They are old, undead Blood Bowl players. What did you expect?
Jim, it still just surprises me each time I see them on the pitch.
Ogres.
The bench seems to be in two minds about what to do about the player lying prone on the pitch.
Yeah, they don't know whether to send on a stretcher or a coffin. Wallop! Right on the schmozzle.
He'll have a bit of trouble blowing his nose from now on.
Right in the face. The other guy couldn't dodge that one.
Luckily for him, he's in a coma.
Yeah, but I think it will still be hurting when he comes round in a day or two. Can you smell that, Bob?
Sure can, Jim. Looks like the halflings are brewing something up in the dugouts.
Is it time for afternoon tea already, Bob?
It looks like they're desperately trying to distract the opponents, Jim. It sure smells delicious. It looks like they're desperately trying to distract the opponents, Jim. It sure smells delicious. I'm sure the fans will get a chance to cry out that during this match, Jim.
Sure hope so, Bob. Timber!
Now's the moment for him to give it his all!
Run! Looks like there was some bad blood between those two, eh, Bob?
Yeah, Jim. Something to do with swapped body parts.
That player's seeing stars now.
Funny for someone that wasn't really that bright.
Corruption is so widespread that the Referees Guild has set out rules concerning where, when, and how one can accept a bribe.
Under an agreement signed last season, the clubs are not allowed to offer less than the going rate. That face job is a lot cheaper than a plastic surgeon.
I don't know if he planned it, but it won't do him any harm in the looks department.
There's no way he's gonna score a touchdown, laid out on the pitch like that.
Brings both teams left.
I hope we're not going to end up with a draw.
That's it. The ball's in play. There's gonna be trouble.
Yep, the ball is catched.
They say this player has the hands of a strangler, but knows how to use them for other things for sure. Ouch! Have a nice sleep.
Little baby gets his medicine and he's having a little nap. I bet that hurt. Good job his nose got in the way.
Yeah, otherwise he'd have got it full in the face. The Blood Bowl annals are littered with the stories of teams who've gone bust with crippling debts.
And with the cost of doping and bribery on the rise, the problem won't be going away.
Reminds me of when I took Griff to bits in the '91 final against Reichland.
Oh, yeah. You kneecapped him.
Did you know, Jim, that only young treemen will help out the halfling teams?
When are they considered to be young, Bob?
When they're under 250 years old, Jim.
Mere saplings.
Player's gonna wake up with a serious headache.
What violence!
Yes! It's a great spectacle, Bob.
Nice play with the ball. They've been training well.
Just a few yards to go. They pull the defense in all directions. They're going through for that touchdown.
Subtle blend of agility and force.
No doubt Tomolandry, the Necromancer, is the most famous undead coach out there.
Of course, Bob. He's the head coach of Champions of Death.
Not only that, Jim, he was the first Necromancer to resurrect a dozen skeletons and give them knowledge of the game, a trend that was quickly followed.
The player gets hold of the ball.
Upside down, that's one way to look at things.
They'll be disappointed to lose by such a small margin.
Disappointed? Any defeat means dishonor. In my time, a losing team invariably offered up some serious sacrifices.
But you were never an offering.
Sometimes it's good to be an ogre. I think I'll buy the crystal ball of this game and watch it over and over again.
Yes, you won't see much better than that. They had victim written on their faces as they traipsied out onto the pitch.
Now some of them have it scraped into their backs. There can be no excuses. No balls, no victory.
I'm not sure that comment will come across as you meant it to sound.
Well, if you got points for staying in your own half of the field, they'd have won hands down.
When you think that there's a whole industry built around providing players with performance-enhancing products, and nobody has taken anything.
The pharmaceutical rep was relieved of his stock by the fans. He's a typical example of RPBA, ref paid to do bugger all.
Yes, they could have got away with murder out there today.
They did. Hi, everybody. And we...
Hi there.
Hey, hi, Jim. And we,
Hi, Bob.
Hey, so this match promises to have the stands rocking.
Rocky no more, Bob. The hooligans have already strung up the band. Oh, yes.
There's little or no way out for this team. The players are going to have to play out of their skins just to stand still.
The players are ready.
Incoming!
Well, it is a violent sport. Finally, there's one that lets his biceps do the talking.
Yeah, but from his opponent's point of view, it was a short conversation. I've heard of teams that have simply disappeared after being abandoned by their supporters.
Let's say that some teams who haven't won a match for several years have been tied up by their fans and thrown into rubbish containers.
It's the only way to end a downward spiral. You have to be counted to 10.
It seems this player does all the talking with the fists.
And they clearly know how to get heard.
That face job is a lot cheaper than a plastic surgeon.
I don't know if he planned it, but it won't do him any harm in the looks department. The bench seems to be in two minds about what to do about the player lying prone on the pitch.
Yeah, they don't know whether to send on a stretcher or a coffin. There's no way he's gonna score a touchdown, laid out on the pitch like that.
Ouch! Have a nice sleep.
Little baby gets his medicine and he's having a little nap. Did you know most teams are jealous of the undead teams?
Why is that, Jim?
Apparently, Tom Landry, in a rare interview, stated it is because their players don't stop playing when they die.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Now, there's an acrobatic routine worthy of a gold medal.
Yes, it's nice to see an uppercut followed by a double backflip.
Side kick to the face. Let's see that again in slow motion.
What a mean hit!
As you say, it is pure art. Go back home now.
Nice left punch, right on the nose.
Sure was, Jim. It's broken now.
Back in the days, there were no undead teams.
Could you perhaps explain why to the fans at home, Jim?
Ah, well, it's simple. There wasn't anyone around to raise the dead yet, Bob.
No, sorry, too complicated for me.
It will be just a small step for the player, but a giant leap for the team! And we're off! He's recovered the ball.
Oh, yay! The living dead!
Now, I've always wondered if an undead player can die.
Of course they can, Bob.
Really, Jim? Right in the face. The other guy couldn't dodge that one.
Wallop! Right on the schnozzle.
He'll have a bit of trouble blowing his nose from now on.
A full facial smash while he's on the ground.
It would have been a shame not to take advantage of the situation.
Wizards have not always been able to cast spells safely from behind the sidelines. Were you playing at the time in an Albion League, a second division that prohibited spellcasting from off the pitch?
Oh, yes. They were great times. I remember fans traveling to games just to see how well Wizards stood up to the mad charge of a raving Blood Bowl star. The noise created by a sizzling fireball, followed by the characteristic sound of the snapping of a Wizard's neck. I don't even think that his opponent made a move.
And eat the dust. It's good for you.
what happens when a pro crosses an amateur.
Yes, splotch.
It's a catch! Now this player just needs to survive!
A mouthful of knuckle, and then a mouthful of dirt!
Yeah, he went down face first.
Did you know that Champions of Death's mummies are rediscovered Blood Bowl players?
Yes, of course, Jim. Everyone knows they're 8,000 years old.
I guess that makes it old news, Bob.
That's not funny, Jim. Seriously, you need some new material.
Typical of the referee. The players just get warmed up and he brings them off the field.
I reckon that several players will appreciate a few minutes rest. The ball goes skywards, and the match is on.
No doubt Tomolandry, the Necromancer, is the most famous undead coach out there.
Of course, Bob. He's the head coach of Champions of Death.
Not only that, Jim, he was the first Necromancer to resurrect a dozen skeletons and give them knowledge of the game, a trend that was quickly followed. In a game as physical as this, the player is really in the right place.
Exactly. It's really ugly.
Boom! In the face, and then followed by a clean uppercut. Well done!
That reminds me of when I took Griff to bits in the '91 final against Reichland.
Oh, yeah. You kneecapped him. Looks like there was some bad blood between those two, eh, Bob?
Yeah, Jim. Something to do with swapped body parts.
You can't say much about that.
Full-blooded, but perfectly legal. What violence!
Yes! It's a great spectacle, Bob.
Now that looks like a pretty serious injury.
Just a flesh wound.
4 inches deep.
Did you know know that Underworld judges woke up a century prior to the other Khemri teams?
Ah, yes, Jim. Which explains why they are the worst Khemri team out there in the circuit today.
The worst indeed, Bob.
That's right, Jim. They had no one to practice with.
They can start to move forward. Delivery is within stud's reach. Ouch! That punch knocked his teeth down his throat.
Yes, Jim. That's never a nice sight.
Let's say that he's a better fighter than ball player.
Scary.
The player has got the ball, and now he's the main target.
There was a time when the colleges of magic hadn't yet ruled on limiting wizard assistance to teams.
Who could forget the infamous 2472 Quagmire incident, when rampant spellcasting caused the entire Bright Crusaders Stadium to sink into the earth?
Nobody could forget that. People were blinded for miles around the stadium. Corruption so widespread that the Referees Guild has set up rules concerning where, when, and how one can accept a bribe.
Under an agreement signed last season, clubs are not allowed to offer less than the going rate.
Bet that hurt. Good job his nose got in the way.
Yeah, otherwise he'd have got it full in the face. Yep, upside down. That's one way to look at things.
Down and quite stunned, apparently.
Oh, a few slaps in the face and anybody can wake up instantly.
The player got some serious air there. there.
Too bad they missed the landing. Without his armor, that player could have been hurt.
But it hurts. I can hear the scream.
The referees guild has decided to hire a bodyguard for each game.
Another brilliant idea. And just how effective will one bodyguard be against a stadium full of supporters?
True, could be a bit one-sided.
I think she's singing him a lullaby. Funny how a rabbit punch sounds so inoffensive, and yet is so effective.
If he's lucky, it's just a knockout.
As soon as he throws his first punch.
We know the opponent will be out for lunch. Justifies your not inconsiderable paycheck.
Talk about a one-sided match.
Did they send out the reserve team by mistake?
Tiddlywinks world champions, more like it. Unforgivable defeat, Bob.
Right you are, Jim. They had plenty of the ball, but did nothing constructive with it.
If you won games by stringing together passes, they would have won hands down.
Unfortunately for them, it's all about getting the ball in the end zone.
Not a very adventurous lot. They spent most of the match in their own half.
So, we're in for a dope-free match.
Well, on the pitch, at least.
Funny how you get some refs who just can't let a match flow and others who just take a back seat.
Discreet, to say the least. But then discretion is the better part of valor.